How you going, guys? In this video, it's going to be about my journey from atheism to following godly principles. I was going to say a belief in a God, but I'm going to use my words very carefully. Following godly principles and how that changed my life. Before I get into that, here's what inspired this video. This comment from Daniel. You'll see it here, and then we'll have a discussion. And just a bit of context. This video was a video about me talking about when you're broken down in life, when you're out of answers and you go into a state of despair and surrender, that's when the teachings of God, godly principles, will transform your life. I keep saying godly principles for a reason. But basically, he's thanking me for that video, saying, this has changed my life. I was in a broken state of despair. When I decided to surrender, it changed my life. So, thank you so much for this amazing video, Simon. This video fits my life situation perfectly. I've tried everything to make things go my way and failed miserably. Now I'm in the state of total despair and see no other way than to surrender to God. And I can already feel God taking over control. It's exactly like you say. Your videos are so helpful for me during this process. I'm so grateful for having found your channel. I find it interesting how the path of knowledge is so relevant for our modern age of science and secularism. In the pursuit of knowledge and truth, we find our way back to God. The truth shall set you free. It's kind of like a fail-safe for finding God after having already abandoned the idea of God. It convinces the intellect to surrender so that the heart can open up to God again. What a beautiful process. What are your thoughts on this, Simon? This process also reminds me of the story of the Prodigal Son in the Bible. What is your opinion on this story? First thing I want to say is I'm so happy and grateful that my videos, in a big or small way, are helping real people with real problems. And now I'll get more into these questions or comments, but I just want to proceed forward quickly with my journey from atheism into living by godly principles. I didn't say belief in a God, living by godly principles. I grew up as a Jehovah's Witness. It's a form of Christianity that is like a cult, but very light cult. Not an extreme cult, but it's very restrictive, very us against them mentality. If you leave, there are consequences. I don't know how it is now, but back then it's, if all your family's in the religion and you leave, they're meant to ignore you, shun you, act like you don't exist. I grew up in this faith, and at a certain point I thought, I don't believe this. I think this is nonsense. I'm going to go out into the world to find happiness. And I did. In my late teens, early 20s, I was an atheist. I thought there's happiness in the world. People seem to be having fun. All this make-believe stuff is not for me. So I went to the world. I was miserable, depressed, low self-esteem, negative, all that kind of stuff. Getting into conspiracy theories. Very negative. I was not happy. And I would do this visualization. I was always very good at visualizing. I would tell myself, even if I had all the confidence, all the money, perfect relationship, I was visualizing myself in a house, double-story house overlooking the beach. I still had this sense, this isn't going to do it for me. I had this intuition, even if I get all that, something's going to be missing. So while in the process of improving this person, I was very skinny, low self-esteem, no money. I learned about investing. I learned about gymming. I tried to learn some social skills that worked a little bit, but most of the time failed. I was trying to do self-improvement. I also acknowledged that even if I do improve, like I was mentioning, there's still a void in me. Something will be missing. So I found Buddhism. They say you don't have to believe in God. This has nothing to do with God. It's about inner peace, inner fulfillment. And I thought, great. I don't believe in some God. I don't need that. That's a primitive way of thinking. That's what ancient people thought. But I'm a thinker. I have an intellect. Went down the path of Buddhism. Really helped. A lot of meditation, a lot of inner peace. But I felt like, but now what do I do? How do I live in daily life? There's no God. There's no reason to surrender, humble the ego. Now, that's not bashing Buddhist teachings. If I continue down this path, it all ends in the same way. That's what I should basically say. That's why I fell in love with Hinduism, by the way. They say there is the one truth, the wise speak about it differently. When was this claim stated? In the Rig Veda, thousands of years ago. The oldest of the four Vedas, that's where this saying came from. The truth is one, the wise speak about it differently. That's why I fell in love with Hinduism. They say there are many paths to God or to inner peace. But in any case, I went down the Buddhist path, felt it wasn't for me, ultimately. Had some great insights. Then I heard about this teaching, Neo-Advaita, where they say, this you that's trying to become enlightened, that's trying to get all this inner peace and happiness, who is it? Who is the one doing this? And I thought, good point. This me, that I assume to be me, this person, is it really me? And that's where they encourage self-inquiry. They say, whatever you're aware of, logically can't be you. Because you're aware of it. It's logical. Do you know the world? Or does it know you? I know the world, so I can't be essentially the world. Do you know the body, or does it know you? I know the body. Do you know your feelings, or do they know you? I know my feelings. Do you know your thoughts, or do they know you? I know my thoughts. There's a lot more to self-inquiry. I could get very detailed and intricate with self-inquiry, but I'll just assume you know what I'm talking about. And if you're a beginner, I apologize. I need to save a bit of time in this video to talk about other things. But basically, that's the feel of self-inquiry. You come to the realization, I know I exist. This feeling of I know I exist, what is it? Every layer of my experience I know, including this person. This person can be objectified exactly like this world. So what am I? I know nothing. The only thing I know is my beliefs, my thoughts, my concepts. But what am I? The only thing I know for certain is I know I exist. That sent me down the rabbit hole of Neo-Advaita and then slowly into traditional Advaita Vedanta. The thing about Neo-Advaita is they teach you self-inquiry and then they say nothing else is necessary. Who is the one meditating? Who is the one devoting? Who is the one doing this? Who is the one doing that? And again, you say, good point. In a safe, comfortable room, you're like, of course. Why meditate? Who is the one doing it? Why devote to a God? Why do this? Why do that? Safe, comfortable room, easy. But then you also must acknowledge, this was my problem, when you take this teaching out into the real world, you're still getting angry. You're still reacting. Your inner peace is constantly disturbed. That's where I was slowly led into traditional Advaita Vedanta. Advaita means not to. Vedanta means end of knowledge, conclusion of knowledge, end of the Vedas. Advaita Vedanta is a complete teaching. They'll show you your true self has non-objective qualities. That the only thing you know for certain is you know you exist. But they'll also acknowledge all these thoughts and concepts, all these stories we have about reality, sure, they're just concepts, but you cannot deny that you feel like you're living in time and space. You feel like you're a person living a life. And this person needs a framework, needs a story to navigate this reality. And that's why I fell in love with Advaita Vedanta. They show you that the nature of reality is truth. The nature of reality is, let's call it, beyond truth, prior to truth, yet the fabric all truth is made from. To make this crystal clear, imagine if the nature of reality was water. This water is the fabric of reality. We'll call it truth water. When this truth water is in a state of stillness, that is truth. When it starts turning into whirlpools, what's it made from? Truth. If this whirlpool turns into a Christian truth whirlpool, what are the thoughts and feelings of this whirlpool going to be? I'm a Christian. Christianity's truth. All they're going to see is a Christian reality. What about if this whirlpool turns into a Islamic whirlpool? Islam is the truth. I see an Islamic world. What about a Jewish whirlpool? What about an atheist whirlpool? If you get where I'm going with this example. However this whirlpool forms, and whatever belief system it takes on, of course, that's what it believes. And that's why I love Advaita Vedanta. They're acknowledging you cannot know truth objectively. All you can know are your concepts, because the fabric of reality is truth. It's like a whirlpool searching for water. Let me study water. You're studying the very fabric you're made from. It's like the sun trying to search for heat and light, trying to study heat and light. It's studying the very fabric it's made from. And that's why Advaita Vedanta was the game changer for me. And like Daniel was saying in the question, that's what happened to me. I grew up in a faith, thought it was nonsense. I thought these set of beliefs I do not believe. I believe in atheism. That was my new belief structure. But through Advaita Vedanta, you realize the fabric of reality is truth. So whatever you believe is truth. It's basically the concept to make you see through all concepts. That's another way to describe it. And traditional teachings talk about devotion a lot, about surrender, submitting to a God. And I did not want to touch this. I thought, I do not need this. But at the same time, I was miserable. I understood the nature of reality is truth, whatever you believe is true, but they'd always talk about devotion, surrender. And again, I thought, I don't want to. And that's the key thing. For these teachings to work, the ego needs to be surrendered. What's blocking this? What's blocking all this surrender and devotion? The ego saying, I do not want to submit. I do not want to surrender. I do not want to think that there is a greater entity that knows more than me. But here's what's convinced me. Their concept of God is not like the Christian concept of God. Their concept of God is an impersonal, personal intelligence. It requires paradoxical thinking. And that's the beauty of something like the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna, God incarnate, is telling Arjuna, and indirectly us, you can worship God in a form, any form you choose. You can worship God in a formless nature. You can worship God, and many people do, through materialism. That's another beautiful thing Krishna says. However my devotees approach me, I approach them in the same way. Everyone is following my path knowingly or unknowingly. Humans have a devotional nature. You can't get out of this. What is devotion? Love or loyalty to someone or something. An atheist is devoted to the belief in no God. An agnostic is devoted to the belief in I'm not sure, either way. A theist is devoted to the idea of a God. Krishna's saying, however you devote me, I devote to you in the same way. In other words, Krishna's saying, I mirror you. If you devote to this material world, I'll give you money, power. I'll give you what you want. You want money, you want power? I'll give it to you. If you devote to me in the form of an atheist, I don't believe in a God, God will give you that reality. What God? Exactly. God will not show up in your life. If you devote to God in the form of a personal deity, Jesus, Krishna, Shiva, God will appear in that form to you. That's again why I love Hinduism. Advaita Vedanta, it's so transcendent. It's so transcendent yet so immanent. It embraces and allows all belief systems because, again, the nature of reality is truth. So whatever you believe about this reality is ultimately, they say, a concept, but also made from truth. You can't box truth into a concept, yet the fabric the concept is made of is truth. That's why it makes me go silent every time my mind gets into that state. In other words, what I'm saying is that's what did it for me, guys. The path of knowledge. And again, why did I eventually start following godly principles? Because godly principles are the game changer. What are godly principles? Understanding, yes, we're dealing with concepts. It's the one appearing separate, but I, as this concept, Simon, know a little bit of knowledge. You know a little bit of knowledge. Many people know a little bit about a lot of things. But the God concept in Hinduism is all about association. Just like there's the one consciousness running through this body, that one consciousness associated with this is called a thumb. That one consciousness associated with this is called a hand. That one consciousness associated with this is called an arm. That one consciousness associated with this is called my body. Me as this concept, Simon, am aware of everything that's happening in my fingers and toes, feeling-wise. If this finger's in pain, this thumb knows nothing about it. But I, as this entity, know this one's in pain, this one's feeling fine. I simultaneously know the status of my entire body on a feeling level. But each individual finger or body part doesn't know the status of other body parts. And that's what changed my thinking about the God concept. God is the one source in association with all bodies and minds. Also, the fact, you look at this reality, there's a conscious intelligence running through it. There's a law and order to this reality. There's a structure to it. Everything in reality knows what to do. Even when you cut yourself, you don't consciously heal the wound. It all knows what to do. Your body's growing hair. Your body's breathing in and out. It's circulating blood. You put food into your mouth, it converts it into nutrition and circulates through the body. There's a conscious intelligence. Any thinking person that studies this reality will have to acknowledge there's a design, there's an intelligence, there's a power, there's a force that's constantly flowing through all of this reality. And what convinced me to follow godly principles? For the very fact, now this is using intellect, by the way, you don't have to believe anything. That's why I keep saying godly principles. I didn't say belief in a God. For the very fact that if you're living your life thinking, I've got free will, I'm doing it my way, I think there's happiness in this world, try it. How's it working for you? Many people think, I'm in control of my life, there's happiness in the world, and you know what? They're very successful. They're very happy. So, do they need godly principles? Nope. Why? They're living a great life. But for the people that have tried this, they say, look, I don't believe in a God. All my attention's in the world. All my happiness is in this world. And it lets you down. That's where they say, well, you've tried it your way. Perhaps investigate your experience and ask yourself, do you really have free will? Ever notice how there's what you freely tried to make happen, and then there is what ends up happening? What are these concepts called? Your free will and God's will. Your free will is what you consciously try to make happen. God's will is what ends up happening. And many times these are out of alignment. When you're lucky, your will and God's will lines up. And again, I'd like to stress, these are godly principles, concepts. For anyone that says, oh, this is a belief, I'm talking about concepts. You have some concepts. You have some atheistic concepts or whatever you believe in. We feel like a person living a life. So if you take on the concepts of, I'm a separate person, in a separate world, I have free will. If these concepts are making you suffer, why not switch up your concepts to, I did not create this world. I did not create this body. I did not create the food that is sustaining this body. I did not create the water, the oxygen. I did not create the language I'm thinking in. I did not create all these thoughts. With a bit of investigation, you realize, I did not create anything in this reality. I am not controlling anything. Investigate your free will. That's another one. You realize life is just living life. This body is a part of this reality. Investigate your thoughts. Investigate your feelings. You realize they're just appearing. That would be a whole other video. But basically what I'm saying is, once you study Advaita Vedanta, the path of knowledge, you come to the realization the logical choice is surrender, is devotion. Again, what are you devoting to? What are you surrendering to? A higher concept, a higher intelligence. I've got a little bit of intelligence and power. So do you. So do 8 billion others. But the one conscious intelligence is associated with all bodies and minds is the concept of God. And again, what I'm going to say is, you don't have to believe in a God, but believe in these principles. The only faith you need to have in Advaita Vedanta is the faith that I'm in suffering, I'm miserable. I'm going to take on faith that if I practice self-inquiry, if I practice surrender, if I practice devotion, it's going to give me inner peace and happiness. That's the only faith you need. Just like the faith you put in your professors or teachers at university or college. You go into a classroom, you don't know something. Now you have faith that you don't know it now, but with study, with research, you'll come to the understanding that the professor has. That's the only faith you need in Advaita Vedanta. You don't know it now, just trust the process and you'll get the results. And that's what changed it for me, guys, honestly. Understanding the nature of reality is pure consciousness. Now, this takes a lot of self-reflection and self-inquiry. Don't turn this into a belief. You're meant to find this out for yourself. Understanding the nature of reality is consciousness. Also acknowledging, but I feel like I'm a person living a life. What is the optimal way to live? Understanding I do not own anything ultimately. I do not control anything ultimately. But why I feel like I've got control, the most optimal thing to do is surrender this control to a higher power, higher intelligence. You can call that Jesus. You can call that just God. You can call that Krishna, Shiva, Allah. It doesn't matter the label. All that matters is the inner transformation. So while you feel like I'm a person living a life, what do we need to do? Freely, while we feel like we've got free will, freely surrender this will to God. Tell God, I don't have all the answers. I'm trusting you to give me the answers. I don't know what to do. I'm trusting you to guide my life. It's this mindset of trust, surrender, devotion, which our ego hates. Our ego wants power, control, thinks it knows it all. And that's why I love Asian culture, by the way, particularly Japan. Their whole culture is about humility, service, unity. And that's one thing I don't like about many Western cultures. It's all about arrogance, ego, I'm better, speaking to elders like they're friends. It's so disrespectful. Because why is the ego arrogant? You're only as good as the knowledge in the intellect. See, when we walk around all proud thinking we know it all we know are our concepts we've been taught. And when you think you're the same or better than someone, you can't learn from them. And who or what is the source of all knowledge and power? God. That's why the God concept has a humbling effect on the ego. You realize, I don't know it all. And that's one of the qualifications to get all this wisdom and knowledge. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, the qualification to get all this wisdom and insight is devotion. Another way to say it is humbling yourself. Not going around thinking, I know it all. I know what life's about. That means you're in ignorance. See, a baby is happy because they don't know that they don't know. They're in a state of bliss because they're not aware that they're not aware. An enlightened person is in a state of bliss because they know that they don't know. A baby doesn't know that they don't know. An enlightened person knows they don't know. Why do we suffer? Because we're in the middle, where we think we know everything. It reminds me of that saying in Karate Kid, where Mr. Miyagi tells Daniel, walk on the left side of the road, you're safe. Walk on the right side of the road, you're safe. Walk in the middle, you're squished. The baby would be on the left side, in a state of bliss, but not knowing it. An enlightened person would be on the right side, in a state of bliss, knowingly. We're in the middle. We think we know something, and we're getting crushed, because we don't know. And that's the whole point of being arrogant. I know it all, you can't teach me anything, I'm the same or better than you, you will not learn anything. That's like going into a classroom again. Walking into a classroom with your arms crossed going, this teacher, they don't know what they're talking about. I know everything they're going to say. I probably know more than them. You're not going to learn anything. It's that mindset of arrogance. It comes from ego. Pride and arrogance. And I'll just end on the prodigal son, as Daniel mentioned. This is a great parable from the Bible. There's a father, if you're not familiar with this story, there's a father with two sons, a younger son and an older son. The younger son says to the father, look, just give me my inheritance now. I want to go off and party. I don't want to be here serving you, respecting you. Just give me the money now. Now, you know why this is very insulting? Because inheritances were given to children at the time of death. So for this young son to say, give me my inheritance now, it's basically like saying, I wish you were dead now. Just give me the money now. Give me what's you owe me now while you're still alive. It's basically indirectly wishing death on the father. So disrespectful. So the father says, all right, here's your share of the inheritance. Go. The son goes off, partying, doing whatever he does, what they did back in those days in ancient Israel. Now a famine hits. There's a famine across the land and this son runs out of money. Out of desperation, he gets a job. He gets a job on a farm feeding the pigs. As he's feeding the pigs, he's so hungry. He's thinking, oh, this food I'm feeding the pigs, oh, I feel like I'm going to need to eat this. I'm so broke. I'm so broke and desperate. I feel like eating this food I'm going to give to the pigs. Then he starts thinking, gosh, my father had servants. Maybe I should humble myself, go back to my father. At least my father's servants had enough food to eat. I'm a servant to these people. They're not even giving me enough food. And I'm considering eating this pig food. So he leaves that job. As he's walking back home, he's thinking to himself, what am I going to say to my father? I really need to apologize. I really need to tell my father, I'm so sorry. I'm not worthy to be your son. But at the very least, if you have servants, let me be a servant. At least I'll have some food to eat. As he's rehearsing this story, he's walking back home and his father sees him in the distance. As his father sees him walking in the distance, his father runs over to him. Now, apparently this was out of character in ancient Jewish culture. The father doesn't run to the son. You wait for the son to come to you. But this father was so excited. He started running towards the son. The son starts giving his speech that he was planning to give his father, which was, Father, I am not worthy to be your son. Can I be a servant? Before he can finish, the father embraces him, hugs him, doesn't even care what he's saying. He goes, I'm so happy for your safe return. With that famine, I thought I lost you. I thought you were dead. He then tells his servants, go bring the finest food, bring the finest clothing. We're having a party. And the son's like, I'm not worthy. I'm so disrespectful. He goes, don't worry about that. I love you so much. Thank you for coming home. The older son hears this and is very angry. He says to his father, hang on, I've done everything correctly. I've been by your side. My younger son disrespected you, ran off, and now you're giving him a party? You've never given me a party. Then the father says to the older son, look, everything I have is yours. But we need to celebrate. I'm always going to love you. Everything I have is yours. You're actually going to get a bigger inheritance than the younger son because you're my oldest. The oldest always got a bigger inheritance. But we need to celebrate. Your brother has returned. The older son is very angry. He goes, no, this is ridiculous. He goes off spending money, probably spending it on prostitutes, partying, and now you're so happy to see him. I've done everything right, and this is how you're treating me. And there's a lesson in that. And there's another lesson in this story. Those that truly love God, or if this son truly loved his father, he wouldn't have been so angry and defensive. He's saying, I've served you, I've done everything right, and he's grumpy. Which means, you know what that's showing you? He doesn't truly love his father. He's just doing it because that's the right thing to do to get the money. If you see what's happening there, if that older son had a genuine love of his father, he would be saying, oh, thank goodness. My younger brother has returned. Let's all be happy and peaceful together. My father is taking care of me as the eldest and the younger one. But again, the older son was complaining. I've done everything right and you're treating him like this. When you love someone, you don't complain. If that son truly loved the father, he wouldn't be complaining. So that's another part to that teaching. When you truly love God, you love God. You don't care about what anyone else is doing. You found your happiness and peace in God. Whether others run away and never find God, none of your concern. If they come back after squandering their life, ultimately none of your concern. And in fact, you'll be happy for them because they found the true source of happiness. What are my thoughts on that story? Very beautiful. And I can totally relate. Again, I ran off into the world thinking teachings of God are nonsense. I'm going to do it my way. I had to humble myself. Even when I got into spirituality, even when I got into Advaita Vedanta, I came to the realization, this ego needs humbling. This ego can't think it knows it all. And that was the key. Humbling myself, devoting to godly principles, changed my life. Because if you believe in non-duality, it's the one appearing separate. What are you saying? There is the one appearing separate, and you are that one. So you are all this reality. And if you love yourself, truly love yourself, you're going to love this reality. If you just love the egoic self, You're going to do everything to serve this little slice of reality. But if you truly love your true self, you'll love all of this reality. You'll operate from the root of love, while still maintaining social conventions. Which is, I acknowledge I appear as a limited person, but deep down I know it's the one appearing separate. So, what should I do with these other apparent separate others? Love them. Show them patience, non-reactivity, understanding, humility, seeing the divinity in them, seeing the God in them, loving them like you'd love a family member. Some family members you have a good time with, some family members you don't have a good time with. Some family members you need to teach them a lesson in a loving way. Again, like a parent to a child. A parent disciplines children because they love them. They'll tell them off. There'll be consequences to their actions, only out of love. When you just let people do what they want, say there's no rules, do what you feel like, you can hurt me, you can abuse me, you're being hurt and so are they. Because that's not the way. Doing what you feel like, doing things through the whims of your ego is going to destroy you. So to end this video with a quick review, following godly teachings or principles will change your life. I didn't say belief in a God, I said following godly principles. Whether you're a Hindu, Christian, Muslim, even atheist, following godly principles will help your life. What are godly principles? The mindset of service, devotion, surrender, all those kind of godly principles humble the ego, surrenders ownership and control, and that will change your life. That's why doing this changes many people's lives. Many people that try to do it their way are in a state of despair. Someone, usually from Christianity, comes into their life and says, have you considered the teachings of Jesus? Have you considered devoting and surrendering to a God? That transforms their life. Then what happens? They say, Jesus has transformed my life. Which is true. But here's the part I don't agree with Christianity. And why I became a Hindu, when they say Jesus is the only way. This is the only way to salvation. Why are they saying that? Because they were in a broken state of despair. They followed godly principles through the Christian lens and it changed their life. But here's the thing. I follow godly principles through a Hindu lens. I'm sure there's teachings in Islam and Judaism to follow godly principles through their lens. The truth is one, the wise speak about it differently. That's why, again, I'm so happy for people that become a Christian. It will change their life, and I'm all for it. But me, I'm a Hindu. I choose to live under godly principles and devote to Krishna. But ultimately, deep down, I know these are all concepts. The fabric of me and God are one, and it's the same with you. But while this fabric appears separate, we need a concept to navigate this reality. So my concepts are Hindu concepts. Yours might be Christian concepts. But again, even calling it Christian or Hindu concepts, strip away all these labels, it's the same thing. Operate from the root of love. Treat others how you want to be treated. And I'll end the video there. Thanks again for the question. Take care.